In the mid 20th century, America's industrial boom had reached impressive heights. Urban expansion, technological advances, and powerful industries transformed the nation into a global powerhouse. But all this progress came at a cost. Today, we'll explore how the American landscape and its people faced an environmental reckoning, sparking a powerful movement for change. We'll also look at how oil became a central issue in Middle Eastern geopolitics and how it changed America's foreign policy and economy. Let's get started. For more than a century and a half, the United States had experienced explosive industrial growth. Cities expanded, factories churned out goods, suburbs sprawled, and transportation networks from railroads to automobiles connected the nation like never before. But this unprecedented development carried a hidden price. Forests and meadows were bulldozed to make room for suburban homes. Fertilizer runoff from manicured lawns flowed into streams and rivers, triggering massive algae blooms. These blooms depleted oxygen levels in water, choking aquatic life. In Cleveland, Ohio, the Cuyahoga River became a national symbol of industrial negligence. Covered in oily waste, it literally burst into flames, not once, but three separate times in 1948, 1952, and again in 1969. City officials were forced to declare the river itself a fire hazard. Meanwhile, Los Angeles was cloaked in smog so thick and toxic that it earned a nickname of its own: smog disease. Acrid blue gray air hovered over the city for days and weeks at a time, causing severe respiratory problems among its residents. These shocking environmental crises helped give birth to a new kind of movement in America, an environmental movement that demanded action and reform. In 1961, a marine biologist and writer named Rachel Carson published a groundbreaking book titled Silent Spring. This deeply researched and poetic narrative revealed the dangers of agricultural pesticides, particularly DDT. Carson warned that these chemicals were not just killing insects, they were poisoning water, air, and the broader food chain. Birds were disappearing, ecosystems were destabilizing. Her book stunned the public. Silent Spring wasn't just a bestseller, it sparked a movement. Carson's work brought environmental issues to the forefront of America's consciousness. For the first time, the public began to see that pollution wasn't just an industrial issue, it was a public health crisis. Rachel Carson's warning echoed through the decade, leading to a national wave of environmental action. In 1970, under the Nixon administration, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, was established. This new federal agency was charged with coordinating national efforts to combat pollution and protect natural resources. Its formation signaled just how central environmental issues had become. That same year, Americans celebrated the first Earth Day in April of 1970, a grassroots event designed to raise awareness about air, water, and land pollution. Millions participated across the country, marking a new era of environmental consciousness. Legislators responded. The Clean Air Act of 1970 was passed to control air pollution on the national scale. But the challenges remained massive. Acid rain caused by industrial emissions damaged forests and lakes. Emission controls were necessary but very costly. Adding devices to reduce car and factory pollution drove prices up, which made the public wary. Nonetheless, efforts continued. The Clean Air Act was amended in 1977 after many areas failed to meet its goals. It was updated again in 1990, tackling even tougher issues like acid rain, ozone depletion, and toxic air emissions. Water pollution also demanded action. In 1972, Congress passed the Clean Water Act, marking the first major federal update since 1948. This law set standards for both individuals and businesses, mandating cleanup efforts and pollution controls. Public awareness was rising, and so was activism. Environmental groups sprang up to tackle pollution in rivers, forests, cities, and farmland. Environmental awareness wasn't just about humans. Activists also fought for the protection of wildlife and natural ecosystems. In 1973, Congress passed the Endangered Species Act. This legislation aimed to preserve not only iconic animals like the bald eagle and the grizzly bear, but also fragile plants and lesser known species on the brink of extinction. The law introduced specific classifications. Endangered species were those in immediate danger of disappearing, while threatened species were in decline but not yet critical. The country was divided into regional zones, and ESA staff were assigned to monitor local ecosystems and preserve biodiversity. This act became a cornerstone of American conservation policy. While America was battling pollution at home, another crisis was unfolding abroad, one that would dramatically impact the U.S. economy, foreign policy, and even the environment. In the Middle East, ideological, military, and economic interests collided, especially around one precious resource: oil. Over 65% of the world's oil reserves are located in the Middle East, making it a hotbed of geopolitical tension. During the Cold War, the United States focused heavily on protecting its interest in the region, especially the flow of oil. In 1973, this came to a head. On October 6th, during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur, Syria and Egypt launched a surprise attack on Israel to regain territory lost in the 1967 Six Day War. The United States, under President Nixon, responded quickly, airlifting nearly $2 billion in arms to Israel. The war was brief, but the consequences were enormous. In retaliation, Arab nations of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, imposed an oil embargo against nations that supported Israel, including the United States. The result? Gas shortages, skyrocketing prices, long lines at gas stations. The American economy reeled. Inflation surged. Manufacturing jobs were lost, and for many blue collar workers, the standard of living declined. American consumers abandoned the large gas guzzling cars in favor of smaller, more efficient Japanese models, costing the U.S. auto industry over 225,000 jobs. Congress took action. The speed limit was capped at 55 miles per hour to conserve gasoline. Additionally, a controversial oil pipeline was approved in Alaska to tap into domestic reserves. But these measures couldn't stop the bleeding. The economy remained sluggish, inflation persisted, and Americans faced an uncertain energy future. The environmental and energy crises of the 1960s and 1970s forced Americans to rethink their relationship with nature, consumption, and global politics. Out of pollution and disaster rose a movement of conservation, from rivers that caught fire to skies choked with smog. The damage was undeniable, but so was the will to fix it. The creation of the EPA, Earth Day, and key legislation like the Clean Air Act and Endangered Species Act laid the groundwork for today's environmental protections. Meanwhile, the energy crisis reminded Americans that dependence on foreign oil came with economic and political risks, a lesson that continues to shape U.S. foreign policy. As we reflect on these decades, we're reminded that history doesn't just happen, it evolves. And sometimes, from the darkest clouds, whether of smoke or smog, emerges a clearer path forward. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.